Welcome back everyone to another State of Play with myself, the chef, and Mr. Beard, my esteemed guest. For today we are talking about the latest chapter approved updates. The mission pack of Nephilim. Warzone Nephilim. Nice little Necron on the front, no more fat baden.
Nephilim.
So thanks Games Workshop for sending us this pamphlet to review. Today we're going to be going through some of the changes that are found within for the GT missions that will be moving forward. But before we get into it, please go down below, hit like and subscribe if you have not done so already, and leave your comments as we go through the video to see what you think about it. Keep the hobby conversation going down below.
And also head over to tabletoptactics.tv, download our app and get access to every single one of our videos, the whole shebang, all the battle reports, all the additional content, hundreds of extra videos. We have in-depth analysis on codexes, we have painting tutorials, we got all sorts of stuff.
It's all there for your consumption and absorption and your enjoyment, most importantly. So without further ado, let us go into Warzone Nephilim. So we will begin with how to play in GT games. For those of you that have played the GT mission packs before, it's basically the same barring like 3 differences. Okay, that's it. So the first and foremost, as they've already alluded to, is your CP is vastly reduced.
Yes, halved for most people.
It's halved. To begin with, it's halved. So in incursion missions, if you play those, it's 3 CP. Otherwise, it's 6 CP in a strike force mission. On top of that, you have to pay for your Warlord trait and your relic now.
Yes.
You don't get one for free anymore.
Yeah.
So to that end, there is 2 stratagems in here called Warlord trait and relic.
What do they do?
Well, one gives you a Warlord trait for your Warlord, and one gives you a relic to a character in your army. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't like it. It's kind of a bit out of nowhere, and it's not really answering any problems.
I don't think anyone was upset that their Warlord got a trait. Or
it wasn't exactly game breaking, was it? Yeah. Like I'm not sure how I feel about it. The CP reduction, I'm all on board with.
Oh, very happy.
I'm very happy with that, and we've already discussed it here. We're going to be applying that to our Tempest of War games because even though it's not a GT mission and it still technically would follow the 6 to 12 that's in their sort of purview, we're going to be playing it with half the CP. This I'm not keen on, and the reason for that is because one, it's not fixing any issues. Yeah. Like, I think I get the idea, which is basically it's to remove complexity, right? But then at that point, I'd turn around and say, just don't let people take extra Warlord traits and relics, because that's where the problem comes in. The other issue of it as well is that there are some armies which don't really mind about the CP reduction, but now they're going to have to spend more CP pre-game anyway, so they're going to end up at a net loss of CP. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't think it was necessary. No one was asking for this. This just feels like a change for the sake of it. Yeah,
I know this is focused on competitive play, but it does feel a little bit like there's the soul has been taken away from your Warlord. It feels a bit less special.
Yeah, I would rather, you know what, paying for a relic, I don't mind because relics are supposed to be rare. But your Warlord is going to be special. That's why they're in charge, right? Like, I would make the Warlord trait free, and if you really wanted to charge for it, I'd make the relic cost a CP. But I would also I'd remove like the give an extra Warlord trait to this random character for some reason. Like,
or a sergeant.
Like, why do they have a Warlord trait? Yeah. Like, why does this sergeant carry relic? I'd remove those. Yeah. From the game. And yes, I know that kind of is contradictory to what I've just said about some armies don't care and want to spend it all pre-game. But if you want to start removing complexity, I'd have a look at other stratagems first before you start looking at Warlord traits and relics. But I mean, it's in there. It's fine. We'll see how people adapt.
It's done.
I can't say I'm keen on it, but we'll see how things adapt. The next little change, and then that's it. There's literally no other changes to the way that your games are played in terms of roll-offs or anything like that, is to the Super Heavy Auxiliary. It now gives you 3 CP back rather than 2 CP if your Warlord is the same faction as your super heavy, provided you're not Chaos, Imperium, Eldari, or Tyranids. This basically means that a Gar player can take a Bane Blade without it costing them any CP.
Which is nice.
It means that a Necron player can take a Monolith without it costing them any CP. You still won't, but like you've got the option without it costing you to do so. So that's fine. That is literally it for those changes there. I've scoured through it to see. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
You still do strategic reserves the same way, so they still cost you CP, and now you've got less CP to do. So I don't think you're going to see anyone doing strategic reserves anymore.
Don't think so.
There's no changes there. Now, in terms of your halved CP, because I'll just touch upon this now before we go into the real changes, which is the secondaries. All of your missions, they specifically state that when you gain your CP, it's no longer in the command phase. You now gain your Battleforge CP every player turn in every command phase.
Yep.
So you will gain basically 2 CP per battle round. That's not a refund or a regen, that's your Battleforge CP, so you will always get those. You're not capped out, so you won't get it in your turn and then you can't regen one. You can still regen or regain via Warlord traits or special rules once per game turn, but now you're getting a CP in each player's command phase. This allows you to have a CP in the bank, as it were, for doing defensive stratagems and things like that.
I do quite like that.
I like that change because you're basically what they're doing is you're still getting effectively the same amount of CP, unless you're taking a Warlord trait and a relic now.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But you're getting more as the game goes on. That I really like because it means you're not front loading.
Yeah.
And you're not alphaing everything. You've got to actually pace your use of command points. That I'm on board with. That I like. Those are all in the mission rules. That's not in the GT pack itself. That is for every single mission. The primary missions otherwise are identical. Okay. The main changes come into the secondaries. So let's have a look at them. So it is now time to talk about the secondaries. And this is where already we kick off with a really big shakeup, and that is the number of secondaries in each of the categories has reduced. However, you can take as many faction secondaries as you want now. Some of them have had a readdress, so there's a lot more viable secondaries within your faction secondaries now. Some of them which you've never seen will actually be usable now. And the reduction of the normal secondaries does mean that you effectively have the ability to go, this isn't an auto take anymore. Most of those have been removed. There's a few which are still pretty good, but there's also been some substantial changes to others. In addition, it also gives you a little tidbit about Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines because they have their basic ones and their Legion stroke chapter specific one. You can combine those two.
Yes, you can.
So you could take 2 Space Marine secondaries and a Ultramarine secondary if you wanted to. You could take your Iron Warriors one and then 2 normal ones if you wanted to. So you do have actually quite a bit of flexibility, but we'll have to see how the dust settles on those faction secondaries specifically when we get to them. But let's talk about the core ones first of all. Everyone has to start with Assassination, grind them down and behind enemy lines, but you can swap them out freely. So it's just kind of, if you're stuck with what to do, they give you some basic ones to choose. Sometimes you probably won't, but that's fine. So under Purge the Enemy, it gives you Assassination. It's the same.
Killing characters.
Kill a character and get an extra one if your Warlord's destroyed.
3 and 4 points?
3 victory points and then an extra for the Warlord, yeah. It's the same. Bring It Down is still here. Titan Hunter is gone. But Titan Hunter has been rolled in to Bring It Down.
Yeah, no one took Titan Hunter anyway because
you were always taking Bring It Down.
You'd always take Bring It Down because you got more points for it.
Yeah, so it's 1 point for a vehicle or monster with less than 9 wounds, 2 points for between 10 and 14, 3 points for 15 to 19, and 4 points for 20 or more. So it's basically the same as Titan Hunter, but it's included in Bring It Down. That's a good change because it was removing one that was never used and just making that a bit more ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Cool. Next up is Grind Them Down. It's the same.
Yes.
Very good.
This is No Mercy, No Respite.
No Mercy, No Respite. No Prisoners is the same. To the Last is gone.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
And again, no one really took that one either.
Well, you either never considered taking it or you built your army to take it.
Yeah,
and then
Custodies would take it a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe Deathwing.
Deathwing, certain armies which could put units back into strategic reserves.
Yeah.
Or Deep Strike and just keep them safe all games. Yeah. So, yeah, it's removing that kind of non-interactive bit of the secondaries.
Which is fine.
We've then got Warpcraft. They've removed Pierce the Veil because no one ever took it. I've never seen it used. I think I tried to use it once and then I went, why would I ever take this? Psychic Interrogation is the only one that's changed here. Abhor the Witch and Warp Ritual are the same. But Psychic Interrogation, when you make the psychic test, if it's equal or greater than the leadership characteristic of any character or any enemy characters within 24 when you do it, you gain an additional command point.
Oh, right, okay.
So there is a way to get command points from it, which is pretty nifty.
Yeah.
Okay. Battlefield Supremacy.
Oh, yeah.
By Stranglehold, the one that everyone always took in every single like objective-based mission, removed.
Yeah.
Right.
It's quite good because there's sort of, it goes two ways, isn't it? You take away the ones that no one took and take away the ones that everyone took to try and make it a bit more balanced.
Yeah, which I get, and I'm on board with those kinds of changes.
Yeah.
Behind enemy lines is the same. Engage on all fronts is still here, but it is different now. Because now you must be 6 inches away from any other table quarter.
Was that not already a thing?
No, so that was what it was for retrieve data.
Oh.
So now, this is basically to stop you from going, like, here's my table, and then if I get a 1 on the advance, I get just over the line, and therefore I score 2 victory points. You go, no, you've got to be 6 inches over the line now. So it used to be 6 inches away from the center. It's now 6 inches away from all the other table quarters.
Okay.
It's a better change. I think it only really benefits armies that are super fast now, rather than it being a generic go-to one. Because a lot of armies would take it and then go, well, I'll get it later in the game by just towing a rhino over the line.
Yeah.
Now you've got to be like really over the line.
Yeah, and another example, one that was taken very often.
Yeah.
Which has been flattened a bit.
Yeah, so it's still in there, but as you say, it's been flattened. Shadow Operations, Investigate Sites is gone, and Deploy Teleport Homers is gone.
Good.
It's a shame. I like Deploy Teleport Homers.
It's hard to do, though.
Unless you GC the Colts.
Yeah.
And you just went, boop, 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 boop. Raise the Banners High is still here. It is the same.
Popular one.
Cool. Yeah. It's still 1 victory point in the command phase for each banner and 1 at the end of the battle. So it's still a tricky one to build up, but it's still a popular one. It's still in there. And Retrieve, now Nephilim data is in here, and it's still the same.
We've moved on from Octarius data.
We don't want Octarius or Nakmund anymore. So
we've got all of it.
We're still on Nephilim.
Listen, we did it together, everyone.
Yeah.
We got all that data.
Everyone gathered so much data that we've moved on to Nephilim. They could just call it Retrieve data at this point.
No.
Oh, it needs to be Nephilim?
Yes.
Is it so then the next one is going to be, I don't know, Retrieve...
Armageddon data.
Vigilus data.
Vigilus data.
I don't know. Whatever it might be. Those are your core secondaries now. That's
Splendid.
it. That's it. That's who you got to choose.
Simplified, streamlined.
Yeah, streamlined. There's a lot less to choose from, but then you've got all your faction secondaries.
Interesting that Warpcraft has 3 and everything else has 2.
Yeah, I thought that when I read it through.
Because Warcraft isn't one that people tend to take very often anyway, because you're always relying on your psychers to do bits.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I'm surprised that they kept Warp Ritual. Is basically it.
Well, to be fair, that's the only one I've really had much luck getting.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah. I'm guessing it's because Abhor the Witch is still in there to give people an advantage, not an advantage, but a option against psychic heavy armies.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of those pseudo secondaries that you're not always going to. Well, weirdly, you're always going to take it if you've got no psychers and you come up against Grey Knights and Thousand Suns. So I don't know. I'm not that fussed about it. It's an interesting observation, like you say. So let's talk about the faction secondaries now. Remember that you can take as many of these as you want now. I'm going to preface this now. The number of secondaries is longer than the core rules. So we're not reading through all of them, guys, because we'll be here for literally hours and it will just evolve into us reading about them. However, there's a few key things to make point of here. First of all, as I've alluded to, you can take as many faction secondaries as you want.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
It does give a potential where things become unbalanced again.
Yes. Yes. Now, the secondaries have been readjusted, rebalanced, and refined in certain instances. Generally, what we're talking about is they're either slightly harder to achieve, they're worth less victory points. In very few cases, they've been completely redone, but I mean, we're probably talking like 2.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we're not going to go through them all, and for varying armies like Ultramarines, Imperial Fists, those ones without new supplements, your Chaos Marines, they're all in here. Your Demons, your Astra Militarum, they're in here. Imperial Knights, Chaos Knights, Tyranids, they're all the same. Tau, they're pretty much the same. The aerospace relays is slightly easier to score because Fire Warrior teams can complete it at the end of the turn rather than in your next command phase. It's things like that.
Yeah.
It makes some of the ones that were never taken more accessible, and it takes some of the ones that were too easy and makes them more difficult to achieve. I don't know how I feel about it.
It's certainly not. It's not game-breaking in terms of groundbreaking in terms of balancing competitive 40k.
No,
at all.
I don't know.
The command point reduction I do like.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't enjoy the Warlord trait and the Relic requiring CP expenditure because I feel like that takes away from the theme of the armies and the feel of the game a bit.
Yeah.
It sort of takes away a little bit of the soul, which I don't really like. There's nothing that's been put in place that's really fixed anything.
Well, I think the CP changes does help against like Alpha Strikes and, burning like 85 CP in the first 2 battle rounds. But
Yeah.
it sort of staggers it a little bit more. The missions themselves, as mentioned, they're the same, so there's no like shake up there. The real shake up in this is the secondaries. So apologies that we're not reading through them all, but it will literally take hours to go through them. And we're talking like minute differences. So let me give you an example of a classic with the Drukhari. Battlefield Supremacy, Herd the Prey. A classic, right? You got 2 victory points each for each battlefield quarter that your opponent didn't have any enemy units in, but you couldn't score it on the first turn. This time you can score it on the first turn, but you only get 1 victory point. It's changes like that. It's not groundbreaking. That's still a really good stratagem for someone like Drukhari because it's quite easy for them to score it over the course of a game.
Yeah.
But it's changed slightly.
Yeah.
Death Guard, for example, fleeing vectors. Each time at the end of each player's turn, you score 1 victory point if 7 or more enemy models were destroyed by Death Guard models. If 7 or more of those models were by plague weapons, it's 1 additional victory point. And you score 2 victory points if the enemy failed morale. And if one of them died, if they failed it whilst with plague weapons destroyed, you score an additional victory point. That's me doing it quickly. You see how wordy these are. It's going to take us so long. But that's better than it was before, which was score 3 victory points if an enemy unit failed morale after they'd lost models with plague weapons. You spread out the victory points. You make them easier to score. You make them easier to achieve. Those are the kinds of changes we're talking about. However, the fact that you have so many to choose from, you've got your 2 basic ones, as we've mentioned. You've then got, if you're Marines, you've got like 4 to choose from because you can choose your chapter specific ones. Some of them have 8 to choose from, Space Wolves, because they've got their 4 basic ones and then their 3 Astartes ones and their basic ones. You then go like your Imperial Knights, you've got your 4 basic ones and then your 2 from each category as well. I can't see how this has gotten easier to balance by allowing you to take multiple faction secondaries because there's so much granularity in the secondaries. It makes it really difficult to go, this is balanced against not only the basic secondary that you can choose from in that category, but the other 11 that you could choose from with other armies. That was already the difficulty. But now the fact that you are removing the restriction of the faction secondaries, yes, it means that actually there's going to be a lot more options, which I'm all about options. I'm all about choice. I think that's so important. I'm just very wary about the balance for this.
Yeah.
It's also one of those ones as well where there's no point in reading through it and go, this sounds unbalanced. This sounds really balanced because we need to see it in action.
Yeah.
And we've not seen it in action yet.
I think from my perspective, I don't feel like this was needed, really. That I've not been thinking, oh, I need loads more secondaries to choose from. And the other thing that just sort of that frustrates me a bit with this is that most people have one army and you're buying this book and the vast majority of the content in here isn't going to be relevant to your army. So I know there's been progress made and the points change is now going to be free and online. I get products need to be sold, and I get that there's money that needs to be made for companies. But
that's how companies work. If they
Yeah.
don't make monies, they can't pay their staff. If they can't pay their staff, they can't make the game that we all enjoy. So you know, there has to be a little bit of an understanding in that regard.
Yeah.
But for
there's just so much, like if I'm playing Iron Warriors, there's so much of this book that isn't relevant to me because I've already got my core rule book, I've got my codex.
it's
Do
nice
I
that the
need
core
all
rules
of
are in
this?
here. The core rules are in here.
Yeah, I mean that's a nice.
That's
addition,
helpful.
I suppose.
I mean, there's no points in here. As we've established, they're going free. Great, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
I would argue that the core rules being in here for some people is going to be an absolute boon. And I'm all about the accessibility of them being in here.
Yep.
We don't know how much this costs. I imagine it will still be 25 quid English, so 475 Australian dollaritos. Look, it just feels like it's one of those things that, like the points, I'm really, really hoping that the response to the points being free, we've already seen it so positive.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that is also just the impetus to make them go, let's just do this as a PDF as well.
Yeah.
The goodwill.
Yeah.
Think of the goodwill.
Think of the children.
Look, will this shake up the game? I think it will, but I don't know if it's going to shake it up in a good or a bad way yet. Like, this is the thing. We really need to see how this is going to settle in terms of competitive play. The basic changes with the CP is great. The changes with the Warlord and Relic, I don't agree with. The mission's not changing. Fine. I think the missions are okay.
All right.
And the secondary changes, it will cause a completely different approach to the game. But I think it's just made it a lot more difficult to balance.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see.
We're gonna play some games and find out.
We'll play some games, we'll find out. You guys will play some games and find out. Let us know in the comments below. And I'm sure there will be plenty of tournaments that will be using this very, very soon. Attend them, watch them, check them out. If you're not attending them, see how the internet responds on Mondays, as they usually do.
Yes.
Which is always very funny. It's great reading with my morning coffee on a Monday morning, isn't it? Tournaments happened and people are saying many things about said tournaments.
Yes, if you're going to tournaments, just remember to be nice and have fun.
Yeah, that's the key thing here. And you're still absolutely going to have fun with these. And I do like the fact that you've got options for these faction secondaries now with being able to pick multiple, because it allows you to really distinguish your faction from an enemy faction. I really like that aspect of it. It's just, if this is meant to be about balancing competitive play, I don't know yet. I'm on tenterhooks to see what happens, but I'm very, very cautious about whether that will actually do the job that it's meant to do.
The proof will be in the pudding, and we will eat it.
I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued. What do you guys think? Are you intrigued? Do you think it's going to bust the game wide open and really bring certain factions down by allowing other factions to come up? Do you think it's going to ruin your faction because of the changes to the CP? Do you think that your group is going to kind of ignore Nephilim and then you're going to just carry on with Nakmund? I've already seen some people saying that, and I'm like, well, that's great until you go to an event. Because,
And also, we've got all the Nakmund data we need.
yeah, we don't need any more Nakmund data. Like, we've got enough. It's Nephilim time. And also, we don't have to worry about Fat Bad.
That's good.
We've got Skelly Boy instead.
You can't scare us now.
Anyway, let us know in the comments below what you think. But until next time, I have been Chef. He's been Beard. You've been Bosses. And we'll see you next time. Bye!